Hello ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be doing our first recipe and it's you guys were super excited about the homemade mac and cheese, so that's what we're going to be doing today is homemade mac and cheese. And I have 1 tablespoon of butter and 1 tablespoon of flour and half a cup of any kind of cheese that you happen to have on hand. This is just a mix, I think it's like a Colby Jack or something like that. And then this is just half a box of pasta. In my family, we don't have a whole lot of pasta here, so we're just doing what we can with what we have. When I went to Safeway last week, there was no pasta on the shelves at all, so this is just what we have. Anything will work. We're just making a basic cheese sauce, so it'll taste good over anything. It would also taste wonderful over vegetables. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I have my pan ready. I'll turn that on, and then I'm going to add my 1 tablespoon of butter, because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a roux. All right, a roux, spelled R-O-U-X, is equal parts fat and flour. You can use any kind of fat. You can use like bacon fat, or let's see, you can use like a very mild olive oil or vegetable oil, anything like that. Go ahead and use margarine. I won't criticize you. Use whatever you can, you know, during these times. And then we're gonna let this melt, and this is just my whisk. Any whisk that you have at home will be fine. So I'm just gonna let that melt and get my flour ready. As soon as that is melted, we do not want to burn this, so make sure that you watch. And you can turn down the heat if you need to. I'm going to add my 1 tablespoon of flour. Of course, I fluffed my flour before I used it, before I measured it out. And I'm just going to mix it together. So a roux is simply this mixture of the flour and the fat. Okay, we're going to let it bubble just a bit, maybe for about a minute, because that's going to cook out that floury taste. We don't want our cheese sauce to taste like flour. So we're going to let it cook. Now, if I were to keep cooking this for longer and longer in a nice low heat, I'm going to turn my heat down just a bit, then it would get darker and darker. We want to have a blonde roux. That's just a very light roux, but the longer that I cook this, the darker it gets. So you can see that it's getting just a bit darker. You might be able to tell. All right, and at this point, I forgot to measure out my milk. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, measure out 1 cup of milk. I've just turned my heat off because I don't want it to burn, but we'll come back with that. Okay, I've measured out my milk. I've got 1 cup. This is on sale for 99 cents, a half gallon of milk on sale for 99 cents at Safeway right now. Grab that today. So I'll go ahead and turn the heat right back on. What's great is that I have a gas stovetop, which means that it turns on and turns off is exactly when I want it to. I'm going to let it kind of bubble a little bit before I add this milk back. All right, I can see itty bitty bits of bubbles. You guys might not be able to see that, but it's getting dark and I don't want it to get too dark. The darker that it is, the richer it is, but you also want to make sure that it doesn't burn, because burned cheese sauce does not taste yummy. If you look closely, you can see little bits of flour kind of floating to the top, and I'm just going to whisk to help that to dissolve and go away. Now, at this point, so we had already created our roux. Remember that the roux is just the butter and the flour mixed together, coming to a little bubble, and we cook it down a little bit to get rid of the flour taste. Now, I'm making a bechamel. A bechamel is just the addition of milk or cream. Okay. Now, if I was gonna make a velouté, which we're not, I don't think we're gonna be doing that, but it would be adding broth. Actually, I think we do that, because we're gonna be making gravy a little bit later. But this is one of the 5 mother sauces, the bechamel, and it's just a basic cream sauce. Now, I have my heat set to low. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit so that this doesn't take too long, but we want it to come to a little bit of a boil. More like a simmer, okay? So to make that happen, of course, you guys know this, you're gonna have to stir and stop. Stir and stop. Because when we keep stirring, it cools down, right? So if we keep on stirring, it's never going to come to a boil, or it will take a very long time. So we need to stop every once in a while to let it heat. All right, so I'm going to pause this until it comes to a boil. Okay, it has now come to a boil. And at this point, it's going to start to thicken. And you're going to watch it thicken. This might take a few seconds. Remember, if you continue to stir it constantly, it'll take a little bit longer, but you definitely don't want it to stick to the bottom of your pan. So if you just stop and walk away, it might burn. Dairy burns very easily, so don't walk away. So it's starting to get a little bit thick, I can tell, just by looking at it. But one of the things that we check on to see how thick it is I'm going to grab a spoon, and then what you want to do is dip your spoon in and then check it. And if it kind of just runs off like this is not quite ready. We're going to wait until it comes to nappe, N-A-P-P-E, and that means that it's going to be ready. It coats the back of a spoon. It's that beautiful, nice and thick sauce. As soon as it comes to nappe thickness, then we'll add our cheese. While that our cheese sauce or our bechamel is coming to that thickness, we're going to go ahead and talk about pasta. So the easiest way to get your water to boil is put the lid on, right? It is important that your water be boiling or simmering before you add your pasta, because if you just add it directly to cold water, it's going to sink and stick to the bottom. So we'll go ahead and at this point, it's nice and bubbly. I'll add my pasta. Like I said, any kind of pasta that you have will work just fine. I'm going to give it a stir so that it's not sticking to the bottom. Gotta find the correct slotted spoon. So right now it's sticking to the bottom, so we'll give it a stir. And then the goal here is that it would be coming to a nice rolling boil that would move the pasta around. All right, so, sorry. We'll leave the lid off at this point. We really don't want any boil over, so we leave the lid off and stir it every once in a while to make sure that it doesn't boil over. Our cheese sauce is now nice and thick. It's got a great thickness. It's not super thick, but notice how it just coated the back of that spoon and it's not just instantly running off. If I had another set of hands, I would run my finger across this spoon, and if the sauce keeps on kind of dripping, then it's not quite ready. But if there's a clear separation, then you'll know that it's ready. So here it is, getting nice and thick. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn the heat off at this point and add my ½ cup of cheese. You are at home, so if you want to add more cheese, you are more than welcome to add more cheese. If we were in class, this is how much I would be giving each kitchen group. You would get ½ cup of cheese, and you would get 1 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of butter, 1 tablespoon of flour, and ½ a box of any kind of, well, mac and cheese, well, macaroni noodles is what you would be getting, but like I said, anything really works. Pasta is all made pretty much the same time. Sometimes people add like spinach or tomato or something that makes it a pretty color, but it'll taste the same if you're just buying regular old box pasta. Our cheese sauce is ready. So once again, we started with the roux, R-O-U-X, and all that was the flour and the butter, equal parts flour and butter. Then we made a bechamel, a cream sauce, just by adding milk, and of course you could have added any other kind of cream as well. Then we made it into a cheese sauce simply by adding cheese. Now, I have to, of course, taste this, and I'm going to adjust the seasonings because right now it might be a little bit bland. So I'm probably going to add a pinch of garlic powder or onion powder to it, and then some salt and pepper to make it taste a little bit better. If I had a sharper cheese, I might have wanted to use that, but I don't have that, so we're just going to stick with what we have. Notice it's not that crazy orangey color that you typically associate with boxed mac and cheese, and that's okay. I want you guys to try this. If you want to get fancy, I'm gonna stir my noodles. If you want to get fancy, you can make it into an alfredo sauce. So to do that, instead of using milk, or you could probably use milk, but if you have heavy whipping cream or whipping cream, use that instead. And follow the directions that are posted in the recipe that I've linked up in Google Classroom, but you would add a little bit of garlic, a bit of nutmeg. For this one, actually, I think I might add a pinch of some ground mustard, and that also brings out that cheesy flavor, just a little pinch. So there you have it. I'm gonna let this pasta finish cooking and then we'll serve it. Okay, so how do you know when your pasta is done cooking? You have to taste it. You have to put a little bit in your mouth between your teeth and chew it. If it tastes really, really hard, you want to keep going. This is al dente, so that means to the tooth. That means it is ready to be drained and served. Okay, so I mixed the cheese sauce into the pasta, and I have 2 decent sized servings of I don't know, macaroni and cheese, I suppose. It's not really macaroni, it's penne and cheese sauce. And that's what my kids get to eat for lunch today. So try out this recipe. Like I said, it's posted in Google Classroom. And post there to show me your results. I'd love to see what you're making. So go ahead and try it out. Thanks, guys. Okay, on a personal note, I wanted to introduce you to my dog. This is my Milo Poopy. His name is Rainer. He's a Weimaraner. Hey, Rainer. Hey. So I've been enjoying being stuck at home with this dog and my 2 teenage sons. So anyway, I hope that you guys are all doing okay. I'd love to hear from you. We're all bored, so go ahead and make contact. Bye.